Hello and welcome everyone to this week's discussion. This week we're going to be looking at how to run and maintain an RP group / community. Looking at why create a group, what is a main goal, maintaining focus and activity, rules and moderation, recruitment, activities and roleplay, handling bad events and crisis, general questions. And, as a sort of different thing, I'm going to be going over quite a lot of my personal take to it, and I'm going to be giving quite a lot of examples as well from Ancerious' history. So, first question, why actually create a group or a community in the first place? Well, creating a group is great fun. I like the idea of being ahead of a community that they've built, especially when it's focused around the things that they like. And a lot of people just like being in communities which they find, things that they enjoy with. It's very rewarding having a community, especially knowing that you created it and that, the people in it find enjoyment. And because of this, it can give you immense joy, knowing that you've achieved what you set out to do is very fulfilling. And, sometimes you just want to find like-minded people. But I would warn that, don't create a group for a couple of reasons, because this is sort of commonly done. One reason is just because of a fad, let's create this thing, everyone seems to be creating their own servers to do this, that and the other end, so I'm going to do my own, okay, but what can you offer that, other people don't? But also don't create groups out of spite. And you might be like, well, that's a bit of an escalation. Yes, but also no. Unfortunately, in the context of Nation RP, or just RP in general, to be honest, there's a lot of drama, okay? And a lot of people tend to get banned. That's just the way things go. And because of that, a lot of people think, well, because I'm banned, I'm going to create the group that I've been banned from, but I'm going to be the leader of it. I'm just going to create X group, but under your own control. Or X community, but I'm going to make it slightly different. Well, if you're creating a community or a group based off of, either spite or wanting to one-up, it breeds a bad community, because your foundation and reason for existence is petty and unoriginal. If you're going to build a community, build something that you can be proud of and constructively grow in a positive fashion. Do not build a community where, it's just going to be built on negativity. Remember, you creating a group is you creating a space for people to contribute to unwind, and to escape their IRL problems, yeah? Do not take that lightly. You are creating a safe space for them. If that safe space is built on negativity, or mutual dislike of something, or a destructive tendency, it is only going to resonate further, okay? I created Ancerious, ironically, because another group failed. Because it wasn't good. But I didn't want to just create that group 2.0. I wanted to create that group, but in a different way, yeah? I wanted to create that group, but with a set of rules. I wanted to do it with proper moderation. I wanted to do it with a different scope of roleplay. I wanted to create my own thing, but it was supposed to surpass something else. Well, that's fine, but you've got to move away from sort of your origin if that's going to be the case, yeah? So, the next section is main goals. Well, okay, what is your group's main goal? That is the first question that you need to ask yourself. What is your group's topic? What's its focus? And what is your goal with it? Yeah? Is your group supposed to be a roleplay group? If so, awesome. What's it about? Is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? What is it? A character-focused roleplay? Is it geopolitical? What's the setting scope? Yeah, is it set across an entire galaxy, or maybe it's set across a single world, or maybe even a single city? You know, you need to think about these things. These are the very sort of foundational steps. You know, don't worry about like, oh, well, potentially we need to grow to like other cities or other worlds or whatnot. You know, that's not in scope just for the time being. Just focus on what you want it to be at the very start, and also kind of have some idea of where you want it to go in the future, yeah? But also remember out of character goals, because a community is not just in character. Um, you know, do you want your group to be community focused? Maybe emphasize artistic creation or collaborative writing, or maybe even just group gaming. You know, that's all cool. Out of character is important too. You know, not everything is in character role playing. Out of character activity is just as important in, you know, helping players unwind and escape, getting activity up, getting focus, getting player interaction. You know, don't leave it out. Plenty of times people come home or just log on to Ancerious and they don't really want to post to RPs for that day, or they don't want to do something in character for that day. We just want to piss around and shit post or just unwind after a particularly shit day. You know, focus on that as well as in character stuff if you're a roleplay group. You've got to keep people focused and, you know, busy, essentially. Not necessarily with like, oh, you have to do stuff, but just keep them so that there's stuff going on at all times, yeah? They need to interact and they need to engage, and that's really key. When planning your main goal for a K in a group that you're starting out with, don't rush ahead. Scope creep is possibly the most common and most insidious killer for young groups that are just starting out. Because a lot of staff and owners try to expand and rush ahead more than they have the capacity to do so. So we might be like, oh yeah, let's create a group that's like this, and then it can like expand to this, and oh, we can have this, that, and the other, and oh, we've got this big story arc planned for this, and when this, and everything. Well, okay, that's all awesome, but you've got to get it off the ground first, okay? For example, you know, you try to make a grand scope roleplay with like some N-tier crazy stories almost immediately. Or perhaps you've just opened your server up and you've only got a handful of players and you decide to open up recruitment to like huge numbers of people and you start spam recruiting on like 100 different servers and just getting shit tons of people in, and all of a sudden you're swamped. And at the same time, you haven't actually solidified the story or the lore or like 100% your main focus, and because you constantly change the setting ideas, you know, people leave. Or because players and different player groups want to change the setting and go in different directions, you keep sort of pussyfooting around and being like, oh yeah, maybe that'd be cool, and then alienating other like different people, and you kind of don't have a solid direction to go in. You know, this can, and absolutely has killed many RP groups. One of the biggest killers of Ancerious split-off groups is scope creep. Because people either cannot agree on a main focus to go with, or they keep changing the setting, or they've recruited large amounts of people when, you know, they hadn't really got everything actually solidified yet, or they've immediately rushed to try and do some, like, N-tier stories, which are like, oh, okay, you know, suddenly we've got this galaxy, and all of a sudden we've got an N-tier threat coming out of the woodwork, you know. It doesn't work. Keep it simple, keep it slow, and expand as you go, yeah? It's fine that goals and your scope and the setting can change over time, yeah? That's, you know, that's not an issue. But allow for that organically. Don't try to rush or rapid change these, yeah? Don't force change in groups in terms of, you know, scope, goals, and setting. Let it change naturally over time, yeah? For example, a character-based group that is expanding maybe, you know, beyond one city, okay, that's fine. Naturally that will come, yeah? Or if your nation roleplay group becomes actually more focused on character stories, again, that's fine. Let that come over time. I can tell you now that Ancerious is becoming a much more character-focused group. Nothing wrong with that. That doesn't stop us from being a nation RP at heart. It also doesn't stop us from dealing with massive sweeping geopolitical things galaxy-wide. It just means that the story medium being used to tell the same stories is much more character-focused. Now that's organically come over time. We've not changed that, and we won't do anything to change that at all. But if you try to make these changes, you're going to alienate your player base, and you're going to cause problems. And things start to go downhill, and you start to get, serious problems. So, next up, maintaining focus and activity. So, handling activity and focus within a group is probably the hardest thing that you can possibly do, yeah? As a server owner or as staff, or as anyone really in a community. It requires a great deal of time and energy on your part, okay? And it will do so for a very, very long time before you start to see any sort of real results. I like to put it this way, yeah? You've got to put a lot in before you get a lot out, yeah? Think of it like a company, okay? You've got to put a lot of assets into building a company from scratch in order to get a reliable base of customers that will repeatedly and consistently buy your product or your service and give back to you so you can get profit. Yeah? Literally the same thing with groups, yeah? You have to put time and effort in anyone else a long time before other players in that community or group decide that it's enough for them to also do the same, okay? It took me, personally, around 6 years of non-stop, everyday, role-playing, being active in the chats, encouraging talks, doing stuff for in character, building the setting, you name it, I was doing it all the time for 6 years, non-stop, before it kind of became, inverted commas, self-sustaining, yeah? You have to give a reason to players to put the same effort in, yeah? If players feel like putting their time and energy into a group is going to get them, fun, it's going to get them really cool benefits and fulfillment, and it's just going to be a generally enjoyable experience that they will get things out of, they will put in effort of their own accord, yeah? But you have to get it to that point, and that is very difficult. If players don't think that they're going to get enough out of it, they won't contribute. They won't be active. It's as simple as that, yeah? You have to maintain activity through a lead-by-example approach. You're going to have to be active in the chats. You've got to facilitate topics. You've got to get discussions going. You've got to get general talks going. You will also probably be the one to start and maintain most RPs in the server. You're also going to have to handle the rules and group functions. I even still do it today. I pretty much still have most of the RPs going. I also like to handle a lot of the RP functions, and I get a lot of these discussions and talks going. That hasn't changed, but I could step back and things wouldn't immediately drop off, yeah? And these are pretty full on and full time. Do note that it will drain you and it will burn you out, yeah? But you've got to keep doing it until the group becomes self-sustaining. Now, you won't notice that distinct point, okay? But you will know it when you get to it, okay? The more people that you have putting in, the better. The quicker it's going to be, yeah? You want more active and contributing people. Because if players are seeing a really active and fun community, that's constantly doing stuff, they're going to want to get involved, okay? But if they only see, like, you and a couple of people doing so, but then loads of people just sitting around doing nothing, it's going to look a little bit suspect. Why is that the case? Yeah? But you won't notice it. You won't ever notice until you get to a point one day and you go, oh, I don't actually have to do all this stuff anymore. I'm probably going to, but you don't have to, yeah? Step away from Ancerious and it won't die, yeah? Things will keep going. I could step away for a week or two, and I have done. I used to not be able to do that in the past. If I stepped away from the group, even for a few hours, that'd be it. Like, it would come apart at the seams. It was crazy. But, you know, now I don't have that problem, okay? Another thing that really helps with maintaining focus and activity within the general player base is you've got to deal with problems or problem players immediately, okay? If you don't, it will ruin the group focus and it will piss off contributors very quickly, yeah? I cannot tell you how many times this community has been impacted by particular players, yeah? Most of them are on the ban list, but just players causing problems, yeah? Nobody wants to talk in a chat where there's an asshole speaking. Nobody wants to roleplay when there's a chance that a complete dickhead is going to come in and ruin their story, yeah? Nobody's going to talk on voice if there's a dude who just talks over everyone about his own stuff constantly. That will kill your activity faster than you could possibly try and tear the group down. You have to deal with those extremely quickly. If you notice it, yeah, act on it. Call it out, yeah? Don't let it fester. Another thing to do is run frequent events, yeah? That entices more players to be involved, gets people involved in stories as much as possible, and they're more willing to go out on a limb for people. I run these discussions because it helps people, but it also gets people active and, interacting on voice. But we also run all sorts of events in character as well. We typically run all sorts of role plays. And that helps involved, yeah? If there's always stuff open that people can then go and join and get involved in, awesome. That shows that there is activity. That shows that players can have an effect on things. That is for the best. Now, remember, hello, could you put it in context? I'll answer it in a bit. So, when maintaining group focus as well, it is also worth using this sort of period of maintaining activity to build up a good core of players that you can rely on. Be that staff or otherwise, yeah? Those that are active, contribute greatly, and that you trust, okay? These are the foundation that you're going to have to build your group from. These are the people that are going to help carry you, and that are going to help carry the group. You want to incentivize them and support them as much as possible. Try to fight any inactivity that you find. Constantly harass people to post, or crack down on slow posters. Especially the case with younger groups, yeah? Because sort of inactivity can just completely obliterate things, and have a knock-on effect. Even here, slow posting can have a knock-on effect. So we try to, harass people as much as possible. Just inactivity can be quite draining at times, and when you have a lot of role plays that are not going anywhere, you don't really want to post to any of the other more active role plays. So try to keep that down as much as you can. And also, don't deviate from your group goal. That might seem like a very obvious, well, Myrick, why would I deviate from my group goal? Well, if you have groups of players, you'd be amazed at what people try to do. Especially when players get a whiff of power, yeah? It's all well and good listening to player feedback, yeah? Proper feedback, proper critique, asking the community, all good. I can't stress that enough. But if you have a group of players within your group that is constantly like, well, I think we should change it for this, yeah? But not everyone agrees, and they're causing problems, yeah? Stand your ground. Don't deal with it. Like, don't, like, let them push you around, okay? Players like to form cliques. And that is unfortunately a pretty common reality in terms of roleplay groups. Players like to form cliques where they kind of just echo chamber themselves, or they all gravitate to like one belief. Fine, again, there's cliques in this group of players who believe of a particular thing, others who believe in whatever. That's cool. It's not necessarily toxic. But it's when a particular clique of players gets really vocal about wanting to change the server to what they believe is right. Now, if they're the majority on the server, okay, and the absolute majority is calling for change, well, think about it. Does it make sense? If so, and it's reasonable, work with them on it. If it's them trying to change everything quite drastically for their own benefit, tell them to fuck off, yeah? Because it's not their group. End of story. Unless you've set up some sort of democracy thing in your group, in which case I'm sorry, but you shouldn't do that. But we'll get to that a bit later. But if a clique of players is being very vocal and trying to push you around, tell them to fuck off. If they keep causing problems, ban them. If they don't like the focus of that group, find a different group. It really is that simple. You know, we've had quite a few players that have come to Ancerious and been like, oh, well, I actually don't agree with that. And we're like, okay, cool. Why don't you agree with it? And they're like, well, I just don't like it. And then, you know, there's been little cliques of people who have been like, well, I don't like the way we do this. Okay, do you have an alternative? Well, no, but I just, well, then shut the fuck up then. Like, unless you're going to work with us, tell us how to improve for the better. Give us something that works for everyone, not just your little clique. I'm not interested, okay? And it's these cliques that you've got to watch out for, because they will undermine the group, yeah? And the last thing for, you know, really maintaining focus and activity is have a robust lore and story if you're a roleplay group, yeah? Changing or editing highly often, you know, your lore and story can often undermine much of the group's foundation and kind of makes it hard for players to pin down story or where to interact and involve themselves. Now, it's all well and good if you're like going back, if you've got a really long history like Ancerious, where we decide to like do some timeline pruning, where we get rid of some like, let's just say less scrupulous things that are going on, or some like really old meme stuff. You know, all good. But if you're literally like retconning stuff every other week, players are not going to like, well, they're not going to interact, because why would you put in effort if that's just going to be undone within short order? It is one of the biggest fuck-ups, in my opinion, of a lot of other nation roleplay groups to have resets, or seasons, as they like to call them, where they like roleplay for a while, and then they're like, oh, well, we're going to reset everything now, and, you know, we'll try again and do a thing. Why? Well, what's the point? You're not actually constructively making anything, because it's just going to get deleted. Like, why would I put my time, effort, and art and writing into something when I'm not going to get anything out of it? Because in like 4 months' time, when everyone's got bored of endlessly declaring war on each other and like, you know, just as planned smirking to each other, they're just going to reset it all. It's boring. You know, make a constructive, well-written, flowing, long-term canon. Then it's actually fun. Then people are going to want to put stuff in. People are going to want to contribute, yeah? One of the biggest draws for this group, Ancerious, is that it's all player done. All of the lore, all near 11 years of the lore, is all player done. And if players want to come in and shove themselves into the canon and influence the story, door's right there. Go for it. What you put in is what you get out. Okay? And if what you put in is way more than what you're getting out, players are not going to give you the time of day in your group. And I guess one thing that I could also add for maintaining focus and group activity is voice calls, honestly. And that might seem a bit like, well, that's a bit simple. Yeah, it is. Listening to people is way more, I guess, intimate and friendly than just talking to people over text. And when you have large groups of people on voice chatting to each other, having a laugh, telling jokes, discussing things about in-character stories, coming up with what games they might be playing, doing some streaming, etc., it helps create a proper community. Even if it's just like once a week or, whatever, it still helps people, other players, put, voices to symbols and names and icons. And it can help people know that there is a person behind that server icon and that you can be friends with that person properly. It helps build trust, and trust helps build the community. Because if you think that somebody might be talking like a bit of an asshole in, just typing chat, you might actually meet them on voice and you guys might actually hit it off really well, or you might be like, yo, do you kind of have a problem with me? Like, because you've been acting kind of cold, and they'll be like, oh no, that's just how I type, like, and all of a sudden, everything's good. We have had so many problems in this group sorted in literally less than 10 seconds by two people hopping on voice to have a conversation. I actually cannot tell you all of the times that that's happened. It's been constant. And I'm not talking like small disagreements over an RP either. I am talking like titanic, massive group changing decisions or whatever. We've just hopped on voice and just hashed it out. And it's been really helpful. Because you can hear the emotion and you can properly interact with people. That really helps focus and it really helps activity, because if people feel like they can trust other players, if people then feel like they're part of the group, they are going to be active because they are getting more out than they can put in. Yeah, so that is my sort of like how to keep activity going and focus. So we're going to go into rules and moderation now, which is always a fun one. So it is crucial to have a robust set of rules in place, obviously, when you create your group, okay? This should include the typical clauses of, don't be a dick, no god modding, no breaking the TOS on Discord, etc., But remember, as long as you have like a really sort of basic core of rules, you can always build off them, okay? And a bit of advice from, I guess, not just me, but the whole of the Ancerious admin board, is don't try to anticipate every loophole or potential issue before it happens, yeah? It's better to have rules that are too lax than are too strict, yeah? It's really far easier to add new rules or close loopholes if they're abused than to try predicting them or stopping them before they happen, yeah? Players who are, inverted commas, too free may attempt to fuck with the group rules, yeah? In which case you just stop them. But players who aren't very free and feel like they're restricted by heavy-handed rules are unlikely to contribute. Because, again, they can't get out what they want to get out of the group, yeah? Give players the benefit of the doubt. Don't anticipate them breaking or abusing rules, otherwise you may have cultivated the wrong community. Because if you are expecting all of your players to just start running rampant with a load of stuff, with loopholes, I hate to break it to you, but you've got a pretty toxic community, yeah? And Ancerious used to have quite, I guess, an expansive rule set, purely because had a lot of players abuse the system, yeah? A lot of players abuse the system. And we would just continuously add and add and add and add and add rules that were like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, there's no loophole here. And while it did fix the problem, it got super convoluted and very heavy-handed. And actually, we've been trying to go back over the past, I guess, year or two and start removing some of the rules, or being like, well, we don't really care about this anymore, because we now trust our community here not to abuse things. Quite the opposite. We actually trust our community with just like throwing rules out the window in some instances, because everyone knows how to write well, how to interact properly, and how to just have fun, yeah, as a trusted community. So don't try to anticipate things. Try to be more open, give benefit of the doubt. If players abuse that, absolutely fucking punish them, absolutely add in rules if it needs to be done. We used to quite openly allow FTL weapons, as an example, until a couple of players decided to absolutely abuse the ever-living out of that, and we had to basically give everyone in the group interdiction as standard. Now, that kind of hasn't changed, but we've put in other nerfs to FTL weapons to allow it so that interdiction may not have to be so prevalent in our RP. So, we've tried to work around things and just generally improve the rule side of things. So, earlier I talked about having sort of democracies in groups, yeah? Well, one way to approach, I guess, running a group and also sort of rules and moderation is through democratic processes, okay? Now, this means that players may elect a server owner or staff on a sort of rolling cycle, or that, players may vote to punish a particular person, or even undo a particular punishment, like a ban or something. Now, I've seen this done in quite a few servers, actually. That is one way that you can go about it. The other is obviously like a sort of dictatorship, staff have their position as they see fit. A server owner doesn't change position. And, players don't really get a say in who gets banned or whatever, and like most group affairs. Personally, absolute 110% advocate for the dictatorship. Now, I know that might sound like, oh my god, Warwick's against freedom and democracy. Yes. No, you can't have a stable and well-run community, in my opinion, if it is constantly shifting at the top, okay? The server owner is supposed to be the rock upon which the foundations of the server is created, yeah? And the staff are supposed to be a foundational framework that to prop up the server and keep everything going and help the server owner, okay? The players are just there to have fun and unwind, okay? That's what you should be there for. It should not be on the players to determine punishments or like major group affairs, yeah? Mostly because then it places a load of stress onto them, but it also makes major division within the player base. You then get the usual stuff that you get, I guess, with like, democracy of like bribes or corruption or like favoritism or whatnot. I tend to find that democratic servers are usually extremely, I guess the right word is corrupt, and purely based on favoritism and like people's like, oh, I like this person, not actually because of any particular like abilities or activity that this particular player does, and because of that such, they just end up like really janky, constantly shifting servers where like not a lot of people interact with. I have never stepped down as server owner in the 11 years that I've owned Ancerious. I never, have held democratic processes of who should be the next, like staff member. I do it within the staff, mind you, as in like, you know, hey guys, who should we promote to our like next staff position? Who do you think would be a good fit? Because obviously the staff are your friends, your trusted confidants. Those are the ones that you're supposed to support you and that you can support. And you obviously want their input, yeah? Because elevating somebody to a staff position is no small feat. And you want that to be well done, yeah? You know, it's your job as a group creator to see, you know, growth and handling, and also be fair to players and cultivate a group mentality and help people. Know that you can't be everywhere at once and online 24/7. So, you know, definitely have your staff team. For fuck's sake, if you don't have a staff team, you're going to annihilate yourself. I know literally a couple of servers at the moment that I'm on and observing where they pretty much have like 3 staff who are never online and just the server owner who's online like all the time. And I just think to myself like, holy shit, that guy must be burning out so quickly because they have like endless drama. But, you know, have your staff, dictatorship good. Obviously, if you are going to have anything that like massively affects the community, do consult the players. Don't just think, well, you know, the players are retarded, so I'm just going to completely ignore them, or like, well, I have all the power, like whatnot. No, you still need to consult the player base. Just don't consult them about every single thing that happens, yeah? And for fuck's sake, if you ban someone, don't have a goddamn player vote on whether you should repeal the ban or not. Because I've seen so many groups try to do that, of like, oh, well, maybe we should repeal this absolute dickwad's ban, who was banned for a reason, and people are like, oh, well, maybe we should unban him, because he still has a load of friends and, like, other people in the server who want him back, yeah? Just don't. Just be sensible on what to ask and get feedback from players from. Any particular major votes that you might want to do with that. But keep it in-house, yeah? So, have your staff team of moderators or admins or whatever to help carry your burden, yeah, as a group owner. Staff should be made up of members that you trust implicitly, that are active, that have contributed to the group, and that you know can handle things, yeah? They help and facilitate your job. Don't try to undermine your staff, okay? Remember, the staff team are not you, and you're not all a hive mind, okay? Communicate clearly if there's a disagreement on a direction or action, and talk it out calmly, yeah? If that is in public, with players, be transparent about it. Don't, like, try to hide away that maybe a staff member tried to do something that was, like, actually retarded and abusive, and then you come out and you're like, oh, no, but it was fine, guys. Like, no. You know, be transparent about it. If you disagree with something, or a staff member is doing something, you know, something that you don't like, tell them about it in a proper staff chat, okay? That way, it's out of sight, out of mind, you can deal with it without player input, and without, like, any sort of, like, panic or server drama, yeah? There's 2 ways to go about, sort of, like, I guess how admins handle things. And I've seen it done both ways. Well, technically there's 3 ways, but one of them is kind of like a non-way, I guess. But you can either be completely open or closed, yeah? Now, open groups are pretty much like, hey, here's the staff chat. Everyone can see it. So all the decisions, all the staff talking is all open. Fully transparent. The other method is obviously having a closed staff chat where only the staff and the admins can see and discuss, yeah? Both have their merits. I personally am 110% for the closed option. Now, again, people will be like, oh yeah, but, you know, you kind of want to see what the staff are doing. Yes, but no. Now, here's my reasoning. If you have a problem player or a situation on the server where a player is maybe causing a problem, but they're doing it in sort of a subtle way, and it's building up over a long period of time, yeah? If you have an open, transparent chat, and you call it out, or somebody on your staff team calls it out, that person knows exactly to stop doing that. you can't nail them down, okay? On another point as well, if a staff member is like, well, actually, I don't like this particular individual, they've done this, this, and this wrong, that individual could just immediately read that and then ping the staff and just be like, well, I actually disagree with that, blah, 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 and then it just causes drama, yeah? In a closed group, you don't have that problem. You can build up a portfolio of offences from a particular player for a long time without them even knowing about it. Where, you know, they're clearly trying to be an underhanded asshole, but they're trying to be clever about it so that they don't get caught, but you catch them because, you know, you've been building up this portfolio behind the scenes. I also vehemently support having a closed admin and staff chat because of venting. And that might be like, what do you mean venting? Staff and admins need a place to blow off steam, okay? And basically be like, oh, these fucking players, yo, like, you know, not abusing anyone, but just an odd complaint now and again, like, oh, this so-and-so's doing X thing again. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, well, whatever. Like, you know, or stuff like that. Just somewhere where you can talk and agree that, you know, you've got X thing engaged. You can come up with a proper unified front for a particular topic or a question. Just, you know, you can make a unified, coherent team if you have a chat that's closed off to the rest of the server. Now, I'm not telling you to be completely and utterly, like, enigmatic on how the staff works and you never tell the players anything and it's just like, oh my god, who's going to get banned out of the woodwork today? Or, like, you know, what direction is the server going to 180 within the next half hour? Obviously be transparent about everything, but have a chat that's closed off to players, okay, that you can coordinate and come up and do stuff with, yeah? That's my thing with. The third non-way that I've obviously sort of talked about is, you know, you can be transparent, you can be closed, or you could just not act at all. And that is also an option that some of the staff take in some of the other servers that I'm part of, where they just don't bother, I think is the only real way to put it. They don't engage or sort any of the problems, and I mean, I guess that is one way of dealing with it, in a way of not dealing with it, but I don't recommend that. Yeah, like, you know, it all depends on how you want to do things with your staff, but do trust your staff and don't be afraid to give them a voice, yeah? I know that a lot of people are like, oh, the server owner has the final discussion, but have internal votes with your staff, and for God's sake, if you're going to promote staff to your positions, don't be corrupt and be despotic. Promote people that are actually beneficial to be staff, yeah? They're active, they're contributing, they don't even have to agree with you. In fact, I honestly cannot recommend enough getting one or two players onto the admin board who don't agree with you, yeah? You would be incredibly amazed at how many times a day, let alone a fucking week, that the Anc admin staff disagree with one another about multiple things. And it breeds discussion, yeah? It breeds, you know, really quickly, like, oh, well, actually, we didn't consider looking at it from this direction. Maybe we should actually look at it from both of these directions. And you get a better outcome, yeah? If everyone agrees with you, it quickly becomes, you know, you plus your team of yes men, and it just becomes a toxic echo chamber where everyone agrees with one another. Now, if everyone agrees on something, awesome, but if everyone is always constantly agreeing on everything at all times, then maybe there's something wrong with your staff team, yeah? And you should consider, you know, maybe looking for some other, I guess, opinions and insight. Remember to delegate, okay? Now, as a server owner, your staff exist for a reason. Use them, for God's sake, yeah? Give them jobs and tasks, and don't try to micromanage them. This can also be hard if you've had the wheel for a long time. You know, as we were talking about earlier, you've been trying to put in and in and in and into the group to get it self-sustaining. You then get sort of used to having overall absolute control over everything, yeah? This is something that I have a problem with, and, you know, multiple of the staff in this chat will be able to agree with that. You know, I need to have everything done right now. It needs to be done exactly as I want it. But I don't mean to do that, Okay, that's not like a conscious thing of like, oh, it's because I'm a control freak. It's because I've had the hand on the wheel for Ancerios for so long, doing everything myself, that I find it hard to delegate and be like, oh, Vic or him or Drac, do you mind doing this for me? It might actually take some of the burden off me. You've got to delegate, because otherwise it will drain you and it will burn you out, okay? And if you don't let your staff do anything, why do you have staff? Yeah? Don't undermine them, okay? And if you have many staff that are doing their own thing and taking burdens off you and are doing things, even without your input to try and make the group better, that's a massive step towards self-sufficiency and players getting out more than they're putting in, okay? Next up, don't tolerate staff abuse, okay? Now, this isn't actually like players abusing staff. Now, obviously, you shouldn't tolerate that, but I'm talking about if a staff member is abusing their post, okay, like they are overstepping their boundaries and doing things without the rest of the staff and you as a server owner's consent, if they are abusing their admin powers against particular players that they don't like, if they're trying to retcon or delete things that they shouldn't be doing at all, or if they're just generally being an asshole and toxic to the community, remove them from staff and punish them, just as you would any other player, because if you don't do that, you will undermine the entire staff team and the entire group's trust in you, okay? Very, very quickly. We have had, unfortunately, a fair few instances of staff being toxic in this group, where people who have been promoted to a position have started being an arsehole, abusing their position. We have yeeted them, okay? Now, sometimes it has taken a little bit longer than it should have done, because of a variety of different things, but you need to get them out of there, okay? You need to have a staff team that is well-rounded and well-respected by the community. If you don't have that, it's going to tear the community apart, because if you know that there's an arsehole on the admin board, well, it's not exactly the greatest place to roleplay or like interact with, is it? Let's face it. You've got to deal with it quickly and efficiently. And that comes to dealing with problem players as well, or just group issues in general, okay? We in Ancerios are all for giving good chances and benefits of the doubt to people, okay? And I advocate that personally, yeah? You don't know what's going on IRL for some people. Just because somebody acted out of turn and was an asshole in chat, alright, fair enough, like, have a word with them, but don't immediately just be like, oh, get rid of them. But it can only take you so far, okay? There's only so long before giving people chances and giving them the benefit of the doubt starts to become negative for you and negative for the group, okay? Now, we in Ancerios use a simple black mark system, okay? If you do something major, you get a black mark. If you get 3 black marks, you get temporarily banned for 3 months. After those 3 months, you can come back, and if, you still display those problems, you get a 4th black mark. That means you're permanently banned, yeah? However, because we have been around for so long, and we have a very experienced staff team, we can kind of tell what a player is going to be like, even from their most basic first interactions on this server. Now, you might be like, piss off. You can't tell how somebody's going to act just from, like, the intro checkpoint, stuff or whatnot. You'd be surprised. We have, I'm pretty sure, been one-to-one for every single call-out so far. And because of that experience, we can obviously deal with problem players very quickly, yeah, before they become a threat. Now, it's fine if you know that a person is going to be really problematic, or they are being really problematic, and you know that there's not going to be any change, or they're doing it maliciously. You can circumvent your sort of, like, I guess, inverted commas, typical ban, I guess the word is approach to the situation, yeah? Because if we know that somebody's just toxic, we skip the black marks entirely and we just ban them. Because you got no time for these people, yeah? Don't let them fester, because if you let these people stay in your group, they will undermine you, they will disrupt the group, they will make players disinterested, or they will try to get inside your players' heads and convince them that you guys are in the wrong. They are absolute cancer, and you've got to cut it out before it can grow, yeah? Again, I can tell you many stories of individuals in this group who were doing things underhandedly for a long time and turned other players against each other, yeah? Absolute awful. And that's when they start creating back chats and they create echo chambers and you get these little cliques of players who disagree with you and cause issues, and it can cause group schisms and it can undermine the admin board and it can undermine players and it just fucks everything up, yeah? Because when the community is not united, things go downhill. So, if you get these kind of players who come in and, they're really abrasive in the chats and, they're being an arsehole in roleplay and they're just generally being toxic, fucking yeet them and don't look back, yeah? We have, how many players do we have in this server? Like, I think we have like 260 something. I can't remember the exact number. But we have on our ban list 82 people. Now, compared that to our active player base, that's a massive, number, okay? And you know what? Awesome. I have absolutely no problem with that, because that's 82 people that we have banned for a legitimate reason, yeah? For being toxic. That's 82 people who have no longer to our server and caused us problems. When in doubt, remove the problem. Yeah? Groups can recover from having somebody get sort of yeeted, yeah? They can't recover from people undermining the group and causing factionalism. Ancerious almost died from factionalism because I was a very inexperienced admin back then. I tried to appease everyone involved because I was friends with everyone. And we had about 3 different factions in the group, yeah? One of which wanted change and a very different direction to the group. One faction basically just hated the change faction. And then there was another faction who were just neutral and who didn't really give a fuck, yeah? And I tried to appease everyone. And in the end, by appeasing everyone, I pleased no one, pissed off everyone, and the entire group fell apart. And there was a massive group schism. And Ancerious nearly died in those following weeks. If you have a problem where there are big factions of people in your group causing you problems, yeah, and some of them are even on your staff team, and you consider them good friends, absolutely try to extend hands in good faith and be like, look, I want to fix this, work with me, I will trust you if you trust me, okay? If they don't do that, fucking purge them. Okay? Because it's not worth your time. If they do work with you, fantastic. Awesome. Problem solved, yeah? We pretty much banned back chats after the last clique created theirs, because it nearly always spills over into in-character, out-of-character fuckery, just as this one did. And it basically just results in really toxic players saying toxic things behind the scenes. And it's just not worth it. Yeah? You don't need negativity in your group. People come to say Ancerious to unwind and write Spacemen. If people are coming to Ancerious to unwind and write Spacemen and there's a load of, idiots in the chat that are, spewing a bunch of retarded stuff and they're being assholes and abrasives and causing problems in character, people are not going to want to come here and unwind and write Spacemen. The same's going to be in your group or community, whatever it's going to be focused on, okay? So, always try to nip it in the bud if you can, okay? So, next point of call, recruitment. So, no RP group or group in general is relevant without players, yeah? And recruiting is a major part of running a group, and there's many ways to go about it. First choice, use Discord. Advertise the server there. We in Ancerious have found this doable, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword. You both attract interested parties, which is cool, it's exactly what you want, but you also attract complete randoms and sometimes quite problematic players. Obviously it's a public link, so take that as what you will. You know, it's a decent method, but it should be used alongside other methods, in my opinion. But you want to kind of be careful with using Discord, because you can get quite a lot of people join depending on what server it is, and that can cause you some problems. Another method of recruitment is using partnerships, yeah? That's going to other servers, advertising your own server, and vice versa. Especially when you go to some of the RP hub servers on Discord, where you have, you know, servers that are promoting each other. That can be pretty good. It also helps you find like-minded members, and it can help you establish good relations with other servers that you're partnership with. I do recommend that you vet and study the servers that you will be partnershiping with to avoid any bad communities or other problems. We unfortunately have had partnerships in the past with other servers that have turned out to be absolute cancer-filled toxic pits, and that has then caused fucking knock-on effects for us. So just be very careful when using that method, but it is very good. And the last method is direct recruitment. And that is basically going to like other servers or forums or anywhere really, and going like, hey, I think you would like this group I'm in and run. Do you want to come join it and check it out? And you just DM them the link. And you could, you know, you get the sort of downside of this is quite a slow method. But you get the upside of you can actually choose who you invite. So you can find like really promising potential people who are in these groups. And it allows you to vet them easier as well. That is, ironically, the main way that Ancerious has grown over the years, is through direct recruitment, going to other servers, talking about the group, having people get interested, sending links, they then recommending it to others, and, you know, so on and so forth. You know, it's often joked that we cannibalise other groups and sort of spit them out. Yes and no. It's more of a case of we've gone to other groups and gone, hey, we've got this thing, and a load of people who have been interested joined us and then kind of abandoned their group. I mean, that's us not trying to destroy another group, but it's kind of, you know, unwittingly caused that effect. If that happens, then, like, obviously there's nothing you could do about it, but don't try to, I guess, dickishly accelerate the problem, if that makes sense. Like, don't try to actively take down other groups. Like, holy shit, that's awful. And obviously don't push for mad growth, yeah? Keep a steady influx of players so you can vet people, help new people adapt to the lore and the settings so that they get well established. You know, it's really good to get new players sort of like on the level of they generally know what's going on, they know how to step into the plot and the community, what they can do and how they can branch out, yeah? If you have huge amounts of people, it overloads staff, it overloads story and role plays, and it risks creating cliques and discontent, both from new players and older players, yeah? Because all the older players are going to be like, Jesus Christ, there's a massive amount of new people recently, we feel like we're being alienated, while all the new people will be like, oh, well, all the old people have, like, all the good stuff, so we're just going to sort of band together. And that's happened here before as well, before we've, like, stepped in and sorted stuff out, yeah? So, you know, if you don't get new players established, and vet them slowly and carefully, they may just leave or go inactive, yeah? And growing too quickly can definitely tear a community apart. Numbers don't mean everything. Quality and trust do. You know, it doesn't matter if your server has only 10 players. If all 10 of your players are active, you know, writing enjoyable projects and having fun, well, isn't that the end goal? Isn't that your goal, for everyone to have fun? So, you know, focus on that sort of thing. Oh, let me have a drink. Oh god, that's better. Okay, next up, activities and roleplay. So, groups, communities thrive on activity, interaction and involvement, okay? Having activities and ongoing RPs are major keys to this. Activities can literally be like anything, yeah? Anywhere from the basic voice calls that we were talking about to regular art events that we do, writing challenges, monthly topics for like world building, or maybe even watch parties for a particular series, or like joint gaming, yeah? These events can really help tie and bring the community together. As said earlier, voice calls is what's kept Ancerious going through the years, and it also gives players interaction and something to look forward to, especially if these, activities can come with prizes, or if they're held regularly, I know a lot of people actively look forward to discussions like this one, or the regular monthly art events that are now going on. But if you are going to do activities with prizes, try to stay away from monetary prizes that are kind of like properly worth something, okay? This has and can lead to bad competitiveness and problematic behaviour, because the moment you put something that is like worth proper money behind, so say like a $50 game or something, people could get a little bit antsy with like who wins, or get a little bit pissed off at like things. So try not to do that. We found that some of the best prizes can be stuff like specially designed badges for people, or artwork from particular players in the group, or maybe like cheaper game prizes, like only $10 like game prizes, like something that's not going to make somebody go like, oh wow, $50, that's like a load of money, so use these events to harbour community and friendship, especially where members do things for other members. We lot of art events where we do stuff for other members. I might do something for Drac, or him might do something for Water Bubble or whatever. It helps players get to know other players, because if you're having to learn about another player's lore or nation or whatnot, it means that you're now more familiar with them. It means that you might read some of their stuff and go, oh, that's pretty cool, I might want to interact with that, and that leads to more roleplay, that leads to more friendship, that leads to more trust and community building. And it all is just, to perpetuate this endless cycle of good vibes. So, for RP at least, it's imperative that you keep consistent activity and flow. Have plenty of chats for out-of-character communication between players, and always encourage back and forth chats between players, yeah? If you are trying to run an RP group, do not encourage competitive or toxic behaviour in roleplay. It will super fucking quickly destroy the community and the group. It will annihilate trust. It will form cliques. It will ruin fucking writing experiences. It is toxic as all fuck, yeah? If you don't believe me, go to virtually any other nation and fucking roleplay out there. I think I can think of one other group that doesn't have that. Actually, no, it kind of did at one point, but like, yeah, it's just competitiveness in roleplay does not work, yeah? So stay the fuck away from it. And if players are pushing for that, stop them. Or yeet them if you have to, yeah? Because it is that critical. And we have done that here before. We have banned people for being extremely competitive in roleplay, because it is toxic and we don't want it here. It is bad for the community, yeah? Don't let out of character run into roleplay, obviously. Try to, like, stop that, because that's fucking metagaming. But also don't let roleplay into the out of character. Keep them separate, because Ancerious is a role-playing group, obviously, but it is also a community group, okay? And you shouldn't put one or the other above each other, if that makes sense. So, it's very important that we hold out-of-character events and, fun things just as much as it is we cultivate, say, the Third Ancerious War and all of the various RP arcs that are going on. It's important to allow members to invest time or enjoyment into either side, whichever one they might prefer at a time, So, as I said, you might log on and be like, I don't really want to post to RPs today. Or, well, there's a game watch session tonight, I might just join that and, like, you know, shit post and have a good time in the chats out of character. That's perfectly viable. Keep interest for both sides, yeah? And don't let roleplay spill over into out of character where it's, like, you know, affecting people's perceptions. You know, like, oh, well, you know, X alliance is really bad and evil, so, like, we're going to treat them like shit out of character. Like, you know, don't allow stuff like that. Just have fun activities, get things that people are enjoying, and push for it. Have it on the regular. You'd be amazed at the wonders that it will do. I have seen some groups who are like, oh no, voice chats is awful and it's only bad and, like, nobody wants to do voice chats here. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that, as their main chat yells racial slurs at each other and, like, abuses each other toxically, like, in all of the chats. It's, you know, it really does make a difference. And next up is handling bad events and crisis. So, you know, as a group admin, it is unfortunate that the natural way of things means that you are going to have to endure times of hardship and stress, yeah? And that sometimes pretty bad crisis can occur, or things that you don't really want to deal with. That's unfortunately the way things go. Sometimes you can see these things sort of coming, and you can prepare for them, yeah? Like, oh, you know that somebody has been building up a portfolio of asshole-ish things underhandedly for ages, and it's finally got to the time where you need to confront them about it, and you need to deal with it, and you need to finally put it to rest. You know, that can be stressful, but sometimes things, you know, you just wake up in the morning and somebody decided to shit up the walls of the main chat in the night, or, you know, there was a raid, or something happened that is going to need your immediate, like, attention, yeah? In times like these, it's necessary to take immediate and needed action to resolve the issue, yeah? Immediately confront whatever parties are involved and try to find a solution. If that isn't possible, then implement any emergency rules, or temporary bans, or mutes, or anything that you might think that will help the problem, okay? So, you know, as we sort of said earlier, like, if you know that the group or community is in trouble in one of these crises, do everything in your power to sort the issue, yeah? As we talked about, having a robust rule system helps, but sometimes it could be too slow for the response, yeah? If something really bad happens, you need to act. Sometimes a lot of bad players like to rules lawyer and get technical with you. Like, oh, well, actually, I'm not breaking rule 2.1 and 2.2 because of blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, well, he's right in technicality, and your staff team sort of hesitates. They're like, well, he's actually correct. He's not breaking the rules. But you know that he's breaking the spirit of the rules and is causing problems to the community. You act. In that instance, you yeet him, or you punish him, yeah? Doesn't matter. You have to take immediate action, okay? As you gain experience, you will know when to act and when to not. Don't overstep the rules too much, okay? So as we said earlier, you know, Ancerious has been going for nearly 11 years now, and we can tell when somebody is not fit for this group and this server, okay? And we can just ban them on the spot. Now, that technically goes against our rules of, like, giving people black marks. Now, obviously, we've got rules in place that essentially say we can do whatever the fuck we want, whenever the fuck we want. But we know that by taking actions against players that will cause issues, we are taking actions for the betterment of the group. And the community trusts us to know that we're doing the right thing, because everyone knows that we only act against players that are problematic or will be problematic, yeah, based on stuff that we've seen, okay? They trust us, and we know that we're not overstepping any boundaries. You have to be very careful of that when you're still building your group, because unless everyone trusts you and knows, they're going to be like, holy shit, that dude just banned that rando. Why the fuck did he just ban that rando? And, you know, they might not believe you when you very calmly lay out the reasoning. So, you've got to balance things, okay? Don't try to, you know, get the community against you. Try to act in a way that's beneficial, but don't overstep, yeah? You know, and bear in mind, these situations are extremely stressful. And, you know, and unfortunately, in the nature of things, because of the way that we do role play, it can a lot of the times involve good friends being on the opposite side of the situation. You know, and at the end of the day, as harsh as it is to say, um, you know, trying to save the group, it's not personal. It's, you know, for the betterment of the community. And you've got to make that clear to them. You've got to say, like, look, dude, I'm sorry, we're friends, but you're being an asshole, you're causing problems, and you're toxic. I'm going to have to get rid of you, or I'm going to have to punish you. You know, if you take offence to that, personal offence, that's on you. And we can hash that out in DMs. But for now, I've got to make this call, yeah? Know that you cannot appease everyone and fix all the problems. As said, sometimes you've got two directions and both of them are shitty. Choose a direction. Get it over and done with. Sometimes you've got to take cuts. Sometimes you've got to take hits. Sometimes it is lose-lose. And there's no golden way out. But it's got to be done, yeah? If you prolong it, it only worsens it and it only makes the circumstances deeper. You know, sometimes you have to bite the bullet, especially with removing a friend. I've done it many times. People here have done it many times. It's a sad reality of life, especially when it comes to friendships and stuff, you know. It never feels good, but rely on your staff and other foundational members to try and help you up, hold you up, yeah? And don't be afraid to take small breaks as well, you know. Clear your head. Step away from it. Maybe it doesn't need to be resolved at this exact second in time, yeah? Step away, read all of the context, listen to all of the voices, step away, maybe go do something away from your computer, and approach it from a calm, collected perspective, yeah? Nothing makes things worse like hot heads. Unfortunately, I've made things worse in the past by, you know, flying off the rails before, and people here will attest to that. Sometimes you just got to approach it from a better direction, yeah? So, any questions about anything that you wish to ask, now is the time to do so. I see. So, yes, I do actually. Typically, so these are the sort of warning signs that we can see immediately from the moment somebody joins in checkpoint. We can tell people are generally not fit for the group if they very, like, I guess, loosely reply to the checkpoint questions, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't sound like they're interested. It's like one sentence replies or whatnot. We can also tell that they probably won't do too well if they then join main chat and they don't really interact or whatnot, okay? We can also tell if it's not particularly great if they kind of join the chat and they start immediately sort of going on about like, oh, well, I actually think this. I think a good example would be I don't know if you were here for this. There was a guy called Bird who joined the server probably a few months ago, and he sort of immediately went on a tirade about how he believed, like, things should be run, and how, you know, Nation RP was kind of meh, etc. I typically find it when people talk about themselves a lot is a bit of a red flag. And I guess whenever they're sort of talking about their like their nation, like if they're trying to like big it up or like really sort of like, I guess the term wank it off, that's also a red flag. So, and especially on voice call as well, when like people won't stop sort of talking over other people, or if people on voice call will only talk about their own stuff, or when players are not interested in talking about, say, the server lore or other players' lore, but always only their own lore. Those are the things that we typically look out for and go like, and also, as sort of like harsh as this is to say, anyone who starts spouting like pretty right-wing opinions typically gets flagged on this server as well, or anyone espousing, like, I guess the term would be like giga Twitter tier, like sort of political opinions as well. We typically go like, whoa, okay, we got to watch this person. So that's sort of flags for me. Go for it. He had a meltdown. Yeah. I think... Oh, go on. Yeah. I'd also say that if people can't take banter or can't take a joke or self-deprecation, that's not a good sign in my opinion. If somebody can't take like basic light banter, they're probably not fit for this group, or any group for that matter. Hope that helps though, Water Bubble. Yep, go for it. For that, we have something called the free market approach, a term coined by Swingfire, which is basically, if somebody is not technically breaking any rules and they're not technically toxic or they're not technically like doing assholeish stuff, but the community doesn't like them for, I don't know, a complete myriad of reasons, as you say, that have like built up over time, they just don't RP with them. We as admins don't typically interact with them. We don't give them good standing when it comes to role plays or whatnot. Players just don't interact with them. And then, it happens to come up and they go, well, why isn't anyone doing anything with me? You just calmly explain it to them. And you just go like, well, you put yourself in this situation. Lefty, who was recently banned, as you well know, was basically in that sort of situation, although, ironically, his was more toxic in regards to, obviously, he had committed offences over a long time, but it got to the point where nobody wanted to RP with him, because it was just like, well, whatever. We don't force anyone to RP with anyone else here, so... the free market, as you will, inverted commas, if the free market determines that somebody, everyone doesn't want to RP without one person for their own actions, that's just what's going to happen. Anything else? Drek, did you have a question that you wanted to ask? How are you going to type it? Just type it out, it'll be fine. I can read the question out. Drek is typing. Also him, I'm sorry, you're getting banned next. Ah, Dan has arrived. Excelente. Dan, do you have any questions on how to run a group? Oh. Well, you better ask now, because you're going to be taken over in the future. But Dan, you were the one who was going to replace me in the coup. Okay, Drek says, in terms of maintaining activity, what forms can this take? For example, I perform consistent lore drops on my own server and put in effort to RP with my members and reward players who give input back, and have run events, but I still feel like I'm simply not grabbing people's attention enough. This is a hard one, because all of those things that you've said are exactly what you want to be doing. The problem is that you just got to keep doing it, unfortunately. You just got to keep doing it. You've got to try and get people involved. I guess encouraging the players to do their own things as well is also a good thing. Giving incentives for players to run their own role plays or run their own events is very helpful. If you have any staff that can do that as well, or like players that you trust, that will be very helpful. But yeah, unfortunately, you're already sort of like doing the correct thing. It's just, as I said earlier, it takes so much time to get a group self-sustaining, and you just gotta keep putting it in. And again, it does drain you, and it feels like it's a never-ending uphill battle. But if you persist, you will be rewarded, and you will get there. Oh, and on the topic of coups, if you ever find yourself trying to be cooed by some sort of clique or a bunch of your staff, just ban them. It's literally that easy. It's just not worth. It's just not worth like keeping anyone around who's involved in that. Based. I mean, yes, you would usually give them a chance, but if players have gotten together and are trying to like demand taking over the server and it's all because of a big coup, it's probably got past the sort of let's talk this out stage. It's probably got to the like people are being too retarded and it's time to end this, if that makes sense stage. Is there anything in particular that you've noticed over the years, Dan, that should probably be brought up? I touched a little bit on like cliques and backchats, but I think you've had way more experience dealing with that than I have. Yeah, I'd pretty much agree with that. Whether they're actually correct or not is a different matter entirely, but it doesn't matter in their view because obviously, you know, they believe that it is the case. So, and it is always trying to like, it was always trying to worth like, you know, getting through to them and actually trying to like extend a hand in friendship, but sometimes you just gotta yeet, you know. But yeah, I mean, does anyone else have any particular questions at all? I guess not. Alright. Well, in that case, we will leave it there for the night then, and thank you all very much.